And here we are.
All right.
Welcome to everyone.
And hello to you.
Thank you. Hello to
Hi.
everyone.
Self-awareness. And so I'm just going to read.
Lakshmi, you need to speak a little more loudly.
Oh, no, today we'll have a conversation on self-awareness, and I'm going to read a short excerpt from Awareness to the Body book. Everything is an opportunity for expanding awareness. So everything in life is important. Our whole nature is reflected in everything we do. In each of our actions and activities, there is an opportunity for self-understanding and growth. Guiding or attending a class, driving a car, brushing your teeth, or cleaning. When we apply ourselves fully to what we do, everything becomes interesting. We create the habit of enjoying awareness as a way of life. Yeah, that has been helping me, a while, being aware of different parts of our mind, body, emotions, and aligning them. And yeah, it's just a constant, sincere effort to become a joyful effort, not with a stressful effort.
Ah,
And then I catch myself so many times, not paying attention, or not paying awareness, but then come back to it. There's a shift sooner rather than later.
seems to me that a continuous joyful effort, no matter how joyful,
Yes.
is a lot to ask of oneself. I'm in alignment with all the idea of being self-understanding and being aware, but I think that if you can't step back a little bit and just meditate, breathe, you'll wear yourself out. So that's my contrarian view today.
Yeah, the stepping back. I think this is very important. I continuously see, and when I feel bad, it's always because I'm not able, or I didn't care about stepping back. Yeah, and you find this also in a lot of traditions. Also in the Buddhist tradition, this practice of the witness practice is
Right.
very, very common, and I think it's more actual than ever. We are bombarded by emotional stress from sometimes to say, who cares? Who cares? Forget it.
Well, it does strike me in thinking about this that perhaps the practice of meditation is the balance against continuous attention. So that if you feel like you've been paying attention, and it's becoming all in your face, then a 20-minute meditation practice allows you to clear things up and begin again. That I hadn't thought of it that way, but that clearing of your mind can be really helpful. Healthful is what I meant to say.
Yeah.
Yeah, Marka, you were reminding me of Thich Nhat Hanh in his community in France.
Yeah.
I can't remember I think it's every 15 minutes. They ring a bell every 15 minutes and everybody has to stop and become aware. And I've always thought about doing that, but I still haven't. But I have actually sometimes set alarms just periodically through the day to catch myself. That's why I like to take walks, because when I'm out walking, then I'm not distracted by all the things to do in my house.
Right.
And my computer.
Right. Everywhere you rest your eyes, there's a chore. Right?
Yeah, something.
That's interesting. I have two friends who are dedicated walkers, and one of them makes an absolute point of going out into a local park, a state park, and being totally
Sorry.
not divorced, but disconnected from the hurly-burly.
Yeah.
I would say. Now, because I grew up in the West and I grew up in Los Angeles, I think driving is meditative for me.
Yeah, also to
Um,
me.
It is, I listen to a book or I don't listen to anything, but it's very calming to just have one thing to do, pay attention to your surroundings. And I find it really helpful. And now that everybody's sort of not on the road as much as they used to be, it's really a pleasure. You can get a lot of places in St. Louis without having to stop. It's just, Mira,
I've been seeing people going down, they're going down one-way streets the wrong way because there's so little traffic. And
Right.
meanwhile, I'm walking and I'm not expecting them.
right. I hadn't thought of that. Well,
The bikes I expect, they always go the wrong way.
right.
Mhm.
We live on a one-way loop, so it's, you have to really try hard to go the wrong direction. It happens, but usually it's some, city truck or something like that. I don't know. Mira, how about you? You're muted.
Muted.
Yeah, I've been doing this, the ATB classes with Julian, and I noticed that sometimes when my thoughts are coming, I'm trying to recognize, is this coming from the vital or the physical or the mental? And also when I try to put myself in my husband's shoes, and I'm trying to understand him more, like why he's saying that or why he's doing that. And so that's kind of bringing me awareness and trying to deal with, things in a better way and in a more understanding way. And also stepping back is a great practice. And I still haven't got, into the habit of that, but there's so much more to do of stepping back and just remembering to step back and take a moment to pause and before you speak or before you act or even before you think, because sometimes when you think and your thoughts are going haywire and then you say, stop, no, just let me come back to, to this, moment. And, it's just being aware of the present moment and just, and even while eating, just being aware of what you're eating and just the thought of, just giving strength and nutrition to the body and all that. And
Clearly the mindful eating moment came, I don't know, maybe 5 or 10 years ago. Is when I became aware of it. That really changed the way I approached my meals. I used to just snack and do whatever, but it's a lot better to actually appreciate what you've produced for yourself or found for yourself. And I think that helps. The other thing that helps me be in the moment and pay attention is knitting and crocheting. You can't do that in a mindless way. I mean, it's possible to knit certain kinds of things without paying too much attention. If you want a scarf, for example, 10 rows, go on. But most of those crafts really ask you to take a look at the pattern you're establishing, make sure you're doing it in the correct way, and assessing what your progress is. So I think that's also another little tool for stepping back, paying attention, and feeling calm about things.
I mean, they're all so interconnected, again, attention, concentration,
Well,
being in the present moment and together.
yeah, I think the I think it's a laudable idea to analyze how these things work. But the fact is, Lakshmi, you're exactly right. It's all of the same piece. It's just a matter, they call it practice for a reason. You can't, you have to, I'm still trying to remind myself all the time, just.
Yeah, one thing is reading it and doing it is an entire
Right.
yeah, and the emotional aspect is most difficult. The mind, more or less, I can calm it down, but the emotional aspect, at least for me, that might be also a matter of character. I don't know.
I don't think so. I think that she says it's not a matter of character. It is the thing that drives us. I mean,
yeah, but I think there are some people who have more difficulty in controlling, or not controlling, but detaching from monkey mind, and others have more difficulty to detach from the emotional monkey, so to speak. I'm the one who has more difficulties to detach from the emotional monkey. Yeah, that's what I'm saying. So this might be more a matter of character. I don't know, but it's extremely hard. What helps me a lot is this was also cited here in the text that we should see everything what happens as an opportunity to grow. This helps me a lot. Even if I don't know why did this happen now? What did I do to merit that this happens? I don't know, but perhaps I have something to learn. And when I put myself into this psychological point of view, it's much easier to be patient and see, let's see the last act. Maybe you have something to learn. And in hindsight, it's always, so there's always something to learn. And the thing that I noticed that the tension, the emotional tension was not at all justified, but at the end, maybe nothing really bad happened. And the emotional tension was so amplified for nothing, or nothing that was really worth that tension.
And how do you decide that? How do you decide that? How do you decide that it wasn't worth the tension?
In hindsight,
Oh.
in hindsight, you see, for example, you have a fear that something happens, but it does not happen. And then you say, oh, for all this time, I didn't sleep during the night. I had this emotion and tensions and fears, and nothing bad happened.
Nothing bad happened.
Because, yeah, here it's the mind that imagines always the worst.
Right.
Yeah. And that's also a mechanism that
A survival mechanism.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
I like your phrase, the emotional monkey.
Yeah.
I think I'm gonna steal that. Because
Yeah. It's not mine. I borrowed this from somewhere else. I don't know, because people speak of the monkey in our mind.
Right.
And I translate it to the monkey in our vital.
But I think that's an interesting way to think about other people's emotions. Mira, you were saying you were trying to figure out how your husband was thinking, what he was doing. I do the same thing here. I think, what's driving this? Why? What in the background? What in the feared future is making this kind of conversation go on? And I can't figure out what the key into that is. So I'd like you to share your secrets.
It's just that I think putting myself in his shoes and trying to understand, like, where is this coming from, and just, we have a lot of differences of, of the way we do things. And so I try to understand where his background is, where he's coming from, and why is he thinking the way he is. And so it's just, it's becoming aware of your own emotions too at the same time, and trying to deal with them, so trying to see how you can connect with him, not bombarded by your own emotions, not perplexed by emotions too. And so Julian did an exercise of you had to identify yourself with an object and see that, see its properties and see its feelings, and see how you feel about it and everything. And so that kind of helped me to connect with that, identifying with the object and identifying with some person. Or
what kind of object did you choose?
I chose a rock, actually. And so when I chose the rock, when I was doing the ATB, it felt like I was seeing the oneness in all of us. There's this oneness that, every object is made of the same, atom, and same, it's every atom, every material things and human things have the same kind of being. Matter, and matter, the consciousness is evolving. And so I think identifying with that is helped me to do that, actually. Yeah.
I'm reminded of Carl Sagan's comment that we're all stardust.
Yeah.
Kristen, what do you think?
Well, so much is coming up with this conversation. One thing I wanted to mention, Marco, about the whole worrying thing. There are some wonderful quotes. I won't remember them all. I mean, Mark Twain has one about worrying, and there's one in the Bible about, what did man ever gain by worrying? But there's a practice that I learned when I was studying trauma sensitive schools. Someone shared, there was a write-up about it, but it was basically, you say, when you catch yourself worrying, you say, just worrying, just worrying. And you make it into nothing. It's just like, okay, there goes my mind again. I'm worrying. But you don't get attached to it. You don't get caught in it. Lately it's been interesting for me. I actually now I enjoy when crazy stuff goes wrong. Like, the lights in my kitchen were flickering off and on, and then a whole track went off.
Yeah.
And, that kind of stuff. And the electricians have come twice. But as this was all going on, I'm saying to myself, okay, what's the lesson here? And can I do this with complete calm and patience? And and I've done this my whole life, but I keep coming back to, I wasn't in the Holocaust. I don't have COVID. I mean, you look at the worst case scenarios, and it's like, I mean, last night a friend was telling me somebody hit her car, there's $2,500 damage. She's so sensitive to electronics, and now people are smoking in her hotel where she's living, and she can't find a place where she's not zapped by electromagnetic energy or noisy people. Anyway, she was asking me how I was feeling, and I caught myself and I said, this is ridiculous. I mean, what I'm going through is absolutely nothing compared to what you're going through. So it's that I feel good because I'm catching myself sooner and sooner with these things. And like you were saying about driving, Andrea, I actually fall asleep driving most of the time, but
Oh dear.
if I'm on a highway, local driving, you can't. But I've learned to this is over years, take opportunities when stopped at a stoplight to say, okay, this is a great opportunity. I'm going to sit here and, I can say a mantra. I can just be quiet. I can just say, I'm going to take this time to rest. So it's,
Yep.
It literally anything can be an opportunity. There's, there's years ago, someone said this to me. They call it, you mentioned the growth opportunities, Marco. It's a little crude, but they call it an AFGO, another effing growth opportunity.
Another thing to steal.
Yeah. You see the comical aspect.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's also a way to exorcise our negative feeling. Instead of seeing the negative aspect, see the comical aspect. The lights are flashing on and off. Oh, that's ridiculous. Laugh about it. So it helps. It helps a lot. Yeah.
That's interesting.
That's what,
Go ahead.
No, that's what it has been helping me to recognize and shift and say, what is a learning lesson? And then, when you laugh about it and just feel so silly, which was so, you were kind of drawn so much about the silly thing. And then, when you just laugh and say it, it just doesn't make any sense. And shifting sooner has been helping me a lot and to move forward. And also, what do we learn from every situation? And I think, and being grateful brings us closer to gratitude. And Kristen, like you said, when you go out for a walk, all of us just identifying with the vastness, with the nature, with the sky, and I feel like last spring I was walking, and you see these beautiful tulips blooming, and I said, all of our nature is like that, in the dark, the seed and the buds are in the dark for so long. but then when with the nourishment, how beautiful they become. And it just dawned on me, and it's like every time I remember that. And,
Yeah.
Good to hold that close to you.
yeah.
I think the other piece about the learning opportunities is that, and I've been thinking about how children come to be self-aware. When you're an infant, it's all about you. It's all about nourishment, comfort, being held safe. And when we're up to where we are as adults, it's good for us to come to the point where we can say, this is not all about me. This is not about me. Those lights aren't about me. That aggressive driver is not about me. This is all about something else that I either can't know or can't influence in any way. So that the opportunity for growth and self-understanding for me is to recognize that there are a lot of other things in this world that mean something to other people, and they're not thinking about me very much. They don't really care whether my hair is up or down, or I'm fat or thin. Yeah, they're not even noticing. So
Right.
that's a comforting thing.
Unfortunately,
Yeah.
not all adults learn that. There are some adults that never learn that. Well,
There are people that are not
yeah,
ready for that
yeah,
for a lot of reasons that may not have anything to do with anything that you can observe. And that's
Yeah.
the piece that's hard to know.
But if I may say, one theme that comes up regularly, I see, is that the thing with nature. Everyone is talking about nature nowadays. So taking a walk in nature, bringing children in nature, but we are destroying it. So this is somehow a schizophrenic contradiction of our civilization. Everyone would like to have, now in Germany now, everyone wants to have a personal house, family house, which is grabbing out the green fields and territory, is the green. Nature is becoming more and more, our environment is becoming less and less natural, because everyone wants to build at every generation a new house, but with a nice garden, which simulates somehow this desire for nature. But by doing so, we destroy it. So that's something, and I think the fact that every time this theme comes up with nature is somehow a sort of subconscious, collective subconscious that feels that, but still has to rationalize it. And we deeply, deeply need that also to calm and to get to this self-awareness. Nature will play an important role, I believe.
I would agree. We see the same thing in this country, where the suburbanization of the America is just apparently unstoppable. But there's also a counter movement. In my friendship circle, I have 3 friends who all live in some suburban arena in Chicago and here, who decided to naturalize their yards and institute prairie plants, things that grow naturally, and infuriated their neighbors. And just
yeah, that's interesting. Why?
But it's growing. There are more people who are attentive to that. Also, I don't know if you know the book called The Overstory by Richard Powers. It is about trees. And it came out right about the time that there is a lot of talk in the natural community about how trees communicate with each other.
Oh, yeah.
It's a fantastic book, and it is the sort of thing that gives you the human scale perspective, because we have a big impact, but we're only a small piece of this large ecosystem.
Yeah.
So I try to keep focusing on all the places where we're making some progress. What do you got there? The Wholeness of Nature, Henri Botoff.
This is a good view of nature. I'm just with some other people. We have online sessions about that, but it's essentially about what you said now. But this reconnecting with this sense of identity with nature and the wholeness of nature. It's coming back. This thing. Yeah.
I mean, yesterday, 2 days ago, the Congress confirmed a Native American woman as the Secretary of the Interior.
Yeah.
She's 35 generations in New Mexico.
Mm.
She's a tribal leader, and she's the first Native American and the first woman to hold that position. The reason that's important is that if you read the American government's attitude toward indigenous people, it's shameful. It's all about land grabbing and greed. And now it looks like we may have a little shift.
Yeah.
We may have a shift. So basically I have rosy colored glasses. So I'm thinking, oh, this is going to be fine. But somebody will say, no, but wait, not yet. We're not done yet.
Yeah, I think that there are some indigenous people, perhaps not all, I don't know, and I personally don't know them themselves, because here we don't have indigenous people. But as my feeling is that they, or some of them, have still this natural contact with nature, and they might be the right person also to tackle with modern environmental and climate change crisis and the ecology and the environmental issues, because we, I mean, the westernized people, we have this scientific technological attitude towards the problem.
Mhm.
But I don't think that problem will be solved only by technology and science, as Greta Thunberg and co say, who I admire, and I'm on their side. I think it's a great movement, but there is still this idea that it's all about building new environment technologies so that we can save the world. But it's not only about that. It's an inner feeling. It's a spiritual contact with nature, with environment, with animals, with everything, where we feel to be part of it, not just we are here and nature's there. And we have lost this contact. These people, or at least some of these, it seems they have still this contact, and they could be the right persons to do the right thing. Yeah.
I think that's possible. I would urge you to visit the American Southwest, particularly New Mexico.
Yeah. Okay.
because the culture of Arizona, Colorado, New Mexico, to some degree Oklahoma, is very deeply connected to the tribal lands.
Mm.
And if you can just recognize that the casinos are there because they need to fund their own governments, the rituals and the idea of the integration of human and the rest of the landscape is natural. It's just the way things are. You should not ignore that. Ignore it at your peril. Anyway, Kristen and Mira, you've been very quiet about this. We should let you break in.
I just thought about it. One more thing is going back to the aim of the life, of purpose, or the choice that we have, becoming aware and then shifting to what is higher. And, that's been helping me too.
Right. So related to that, I'm sitting here with like a million things to say, so I have to pare it down about all of this. What you were just saying, the purpose, and I think all of us would say that our purpose is, based on many spiritual traditions, is that sense, that connection with divine oneness, that truly understanding that oneness. And there's something, I've been working with a teacher in middle Massachusetts named Guruji Ma in the past year. And she's quite amazing. And she's totally in line with Sri Aurobindo and the mother. She's been to the ashram and she had a very strong connection with Sri Aurobindo. But she comes from the, what do they call it? Anyway, it's the light, it's the circles of light or something. And so she has been in communication with a group from in our galaxy. They're called the Galactic Federation. And they're beings who have attained oneness. And they're watching us very closely. They've been watching us, throughout all our history. And they're not allowed to intervene, but they see what's coming and we will get there. They're seeing that, the input right now, the increased vibrational levels that are coming in are moving all of us in that direction. And we're in the craziness, the flux of those who fear that energy and are reacting against it, and then those who are able to connect to it. But anyway, it gives me so much hope because the way they operate is any decision they make, they all go inward into that oneness, and then a decision comes out of that. It's never an individual making a decision. So anyway, that just really, to me, gives me the sense that we'll get there. It's going to be not in our lifetime. Well, I'm Sri Aurobindo, the mother, said the same thing. They said it'll be a couple hundred years, certainly before the supermental is realized, if then. Anyway, so yes, like you, Andrea, I try to remain positive. And when I see all the craziness, I just try to put myself in those people's shoes and say, that's where they are. That's their limitation, and they can't go any further. And they may know something I don't know. I don't know that I'm right. I could be wrong about many, many things. And that's the hardest thing, is we all want to have the answers all the time.
Right.
Sri Aurobindo also talks about, if you see the oneness, if you see yourself in others, or if you see the oneness in all, you'll not hate anyone, or you will not despise anyone. You're going to be more, in the right track of, thinking. And so that's what I remember from that. Yeah.
I'm always curious and really fascinated with trying to figure out how people move from fear and hatred to something more positive or developmental. So I have a book. I have two books I want to talk about, but this is what I want to do right now. There's a book out right now called Rising Out of Hatred. And the author's name is Eli Sosnow. And it's about a guy named Derek Black, whose father founded Stormfront, the Nazi white supremacist, the word I want is internet. And his godfather was David Duke, really notorious. And he himself, this guy Derek Black, spent his youth being steeped in anti-Semitic, nationalist, neo-Nazi kind of belief systems. He was homeschooled. He had his own radio show. It was really like the heir to the next generation. And then he went to college, and he went to New College in Florida, which is a very unusual, diverse place. And in the course of his years there, he made friends with some Jewish kids, and he found a girlfriend who was really sort of open-minded and tried to figure out what he was all about. And over 5 years, he changed his mind. He came out of what his family had been to something that looks a lot more questioning, open, and developmental. It's a fantastic book, and it's really well written. It's not hard. It reads like a novel. I would recommend it if you're thinking about how people can move towards something that is not centered on the othering of people that don't look like them. It's fantastic. It was the first time I had any insight into the thinking of a person who was sitting in the middle of this horrible storm of terrible thinking and found a way out of it. So it's a developmental thing. It's a development of self-awareness. And I was glad somebody recommended it to me. Just, yeah.
Yes, I saw him interviewed. What's fascinating is this divisiveness that's increasing. It's fear-based for sure. And
Yeah.
but what's interesting is that I actually read something this morning about how, because I always see it as tribal, that we all live in communities,
Yeah.
mostly with like-minded people. And then and like that guy,
Good
his
call.
church, his family, everybody he knew spoke this way and believed this way. And it's very difficult to go outside of that. And he'd never been outside of that.
Right.
But that shift, now they're saying they're actually seeing that more and more demographics are showing like-minded people grouping together.
Right.
It's really scary.
Well, and it gets accelerated by the ability that we have to focus our attention only on things that speak to the things we already believe.
Right.
You know, if you don't ever read anything that doesn't agree with what you already think, how could you know? The thing that happened to Derek was that somebody figured out who he was. He didn't advertise himself as a white nationalist when he got to New College, but somebody saw something about him on the web and outed him. And then he had to deal with it publicly. So it wasn't just he could carry around his own ideas, but he was put in a position where, you know, you own it or change it. So, hello, Juno. I have to go let the dog out. I'll be right back. Come on, Juno.
Yeah, this is a wonderful conversation. Again, it ties down into what we've been talking last time about science of living.
Yeah, but I think this sense of divisiveness is also a reaction to a sense of unity that wants to emerge. We are living now in days where we have this globalization. Frontiers are becoming thinner and thinner, even if someone wants to build walls. But I don't think it on the long term it will not be very useful. We will have to learn to live together in a one humanity on one planet. The times where we could isolate ourselves, this was once upon a time it was possible. If there in China you had the coronavirus in China only 100 years ago, 100 or 150 years ago, nobody would have noticed it. No, nowadays we can no longer think in this way. What happens there affects us globally, and I think this divisiveness that is surging is a reaction to that. It is something that doesn't want to accept that, but this divisiveness was always there, but this was silent at the subconscious level. Now it has to face reality, and therefore it reacts. So I think it can be seen also from the positive point of view. That this divisiveness surges precisely because the sense of unity is growing. So even if,
I agree.
it's painful, but I think it's a positive process.
And again, I feel this kind of clearly demonstrated, like Kristen, you said, how you react to your own insecurities. You know, again, attention seeking. Like even in a classroom, or even like, Andrea, for your dog came in because needed some attention, and different people react to different ways of needs that they have.
Well, figuring out what their needs are is the long trick. It's the long discipline.
Yeah.
It's not, they don't even sometimes know themselves.
Yes.
But
And
there is, yeah,
it's building
sorry.
slowly, it's building slowly to have a good foundation.
There is something, a need that we, I think, don't nourish enough nowadays, and this is it is that of giving a meaning to our life. Here we come also to the educational issue. Our schools are based on the learning of facts, not on nurturing and fostering something where you find a meaning in your life, a meaningfulness in doing things, in being someone. It's a crisis of identity that I have read this. There's precise research now that these people who tend to this isolate to isolate themselves and to take up these ideologies which would like to return back to a world where we are everyone in our tribal group isolated from the rest of the world. Most of the times these are people who have crisis of meaning in their life and a crisis of identity. They are no longer able to identify with an aim, a purpose, a meaning in their life. And that's what we urgently need to foster in schools, especially those based on an integral education, where we help children to find their purpose in their life and a meaning in life and in their life. That's completely missing in our school system nowadays.
And I'm wondering whether trying to generate that in children might be going at it a little backward. I think kids have a hard time just figuring out where they are. It's like asking a 10-year-old, what do you want to be when you grow up? Well, a fireman. I don't know. I'm going at this from the other end of the age spectrum. I have a friend who retired 10 years ago, and she did not retire voluntarily. She had to leave. And what she found was she'd spent her whole life thinking that her purpose was to teach. And then she was put in a position where she could not teach anymore. And she were very close, and I have been following with real interest how she has navigated going from a person who thought she had an identity and then didn't have one, and tried to find a purpose and a reason for herself. She's good, she's smart, she's logical, but it's taken her 10 years. And it's something she fought the whole time, the early time, because she wanted to go back to her old identity. So to me, sometimes this development of identity or identification of purpose comes, as you say, Margot, through some kind of crisis where you are forced to abandon the thing that you thought was your spark. And then it's time to figure out where that's going to come from. I think it's a really, that's the maturity of human beings. And I think we wish the kids could get it earlier so they wouldn't have so much stress and pain. But it doesn't work that way. Except for Rohit, who always knew what he wanted to do, right?
But I don't think it's so important that children know it rationally. Let them be. And then when I speak about free progress education, as I interpret it, free means it's the freedom of the soul. And the soul knows what it wants. It's not necessary that the mind, but you must feel good in what you're doing.
That's your spiritual part.
Yeah, but no, I would say if the spiritual part is missing, then also the rest cannot come.
I would agree.
No.
We just have to be patient.
Yeah, we as adults, yes.
Yeah, yeah.
But as a child, I can remember that I had this thirst of knowing things, learning things, and I was prevented from doing that. And that I would not wish to anyone to go through this.
Right.
And children are helpless in this. They cannot defend themselves from these things.
Mostly they can't, but when they do, they make life hell for their parents, their teachers, and sometimes their friends, because they can't help not being the thing they are.
They cannot be what they are, exactly,
Right.
yes.
So,
This is a systemic. It's also in our system. Also with the best intentions of the parents. If the system presses you inside the box and closes with the keys and throws away the keys, you're in there.
and so why do parents do that? Because they're afraid their kids will not have a job, have a family.
Exactly. Fear
It's
commands.
Incredible driver.
And fear is much more powerful than money, I say. It's not money that
Money's a proxy.
rules the world. It's fear that rules the world.
Yeah, to me, the bottom line is the sense of being coming from, of well-being coming from inside, the sense of self-value.
Yeah.
That it's okay to just be, like you were saying, Marco. It's the freedom of the soul, and that means you don't put your value on doing what everybody else is doing and having that be your criteria for success.
Exactly.
That it's okay to just be. I mean, that's one of my teachers has said, especially in the West, we absolutely do not know how to just be. It's all about doing. We're human doings, and we just can't. And a lot of times I have to make myself sit and do nothing. I'm not meditating. I'm not doing anything. I'm just being. And that is so uncommon in this culture. It's unheard of.
True.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I've been thinking about it constantly. Go ahead.
Oh no, a mother also talks about being an individual. So when you become an individual, you have a lot more to give to the world, and so that's what I was talking about. Yeah.
Mm.
Absolutely.
Right. Well, I want to talk about another book because I'm thinking about self-awareness and self-development. I'm about a third of the way through Kazuo Ishiguro's new book called Clara and the Sun, in which he posits a future in which adolescents have artificial friends, AFs. And the story is told through the awareness of Clara, who is an AF to a girl named Josie. And Ishiguro says something very, very interesting. What he's trying to do is look at how creatures become aware. He gives her the ability to observe and draw conclusions. That's her, she's an empath, that's her particular strength. But in the course of the book, she has to learn about the mother, the person who manages the store she's bought from, about the girl herself. And I can see him moving her toward fuller and fuller understanding of what it means to be human, and fuller understanding of what it means to be a participant in the divine without being totally religious. It's a fantastic book. And if you know the book that he wrote a while ago, 15 years ago, called Never Let Me Go, I don't know if you know that book, but it's about organ donation until people die. I saw an interview with him last night, and he said he went back and reread that book, and he felt so bad about its bleakness that he had to write this book as a reply to himself. So I would recommend it if you're thinking about developing self-awareness from a sort of a streamlined way. This is not deeply philosophical. He doesn't push things on you, but you can see how the mechanism could work. I leave that in your inbox and say, try it out. So
Thank you all. So let's see you.
thanks for the topic, Lakshmi.
Oh no, I was just because I thought this ties into again attention concentration, and which is the key for whatever we do.
Absolutely right.
And this is, from my own experience, paying more attention, more awareness.
It was fascinating to me when I spoke with Carney McRae. She's worked with many children, and she said she's amazed at how difficult it is for kids to learn to pay attention.
Yeah.
They really have to have a lot of time to get it. They're all at different developmental levels and whatever stages, and just within themselves, ready or not ready. And so if their days are packed up against, this thing and the next thing and the next thing, and changing classes and all that they have no time to integrate for themselves. And it takes quite a while. For some children, it takes quite a while to really learn how to pay attention to anything.
But I think it's also a symptom. It's I don't know. So as long as it is a symptom, I don't know if someone can learn to pay attention. As long that the cause of the symptom is not eliminated, you can try to learn. You will always fall in this trap again, and that's. I have no strong opinion on that, but my impression is that there's something escaping to us as adults when we speak about this issue, because you can see this everywhere. Also here, I mean, in all the world, they are all saying the same thing. Children have more and more difficulties in concentration. And if you ask someone what the cause is, everyone says something else. Mm-hmm. So we have still to find out what this really is. My impression is that at least one of the causes is that we don't give them a meaning in their life. It's all about jobs. It's all about money, making money. It's all about material things, and nothing that guides them to reconnect with themselves inside, with their spirit, soul, or however you might call it. Right. That creates a lot of restlessness, also in adults, not only children.
I think there's another connection too, and that is we just have too much. It's information overload. It's too many options. I was fascinated by the theory of the tyranny of choice that people started talking about 7 or 8 years ago. Sometimes I remember my child was 4 years old, and I said, "What do you want for dinner?" And she burst into tears. She doesn't have to decide. I can say, "Here are 3 things, choose one," or "This is what you're having." There's too much to pay attention to. And people keep saying, "Pay attention to this, pay attention to that, pay attention to the other thing," and that's also part of the cause of the symptoms that we're talking about. So
we just look at our email boxes and
oh my God.
It's very clear.
I mean, as we are progressing, we are getting more distracted too. We have so many more distractions.
Right. All right.
One thing at a time.
The role of the internet and the media. There are a lot of people who say that this is the cause. Yes, but I'm not convinced that this is the only cause. It is part of the equation, yes, but my impression is that there is more. My theory, that's just my opinion, It's that, okay, here this is a metaphysical Marco. It is a soul that rebels and doesn't accept the rules that once upon a time, in our previous reincarnation was still acceptable. But now we are evolving and saying, okay, that's enough. Let's go beyond. But the system does not allow that. And there is this reaction. Just a perspective.
Nope, I don't disagree with that. I don't disagree.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Okay, thank
That's
you.
good. We'll see you in a few weeks.
You. Yeah.
Thanks.
Couple
Bye.
of weeks.
Yeah.
Bye-bye.
Thank you, everyone.
Oh, thank you, Kristen. Bye.